The touch of your hand makes me tremble within. Love the smell of your hair.
Man, feeling well, man.
What's your name?
My name is Cardi Cornish.
And you a legend?
I'm a legend.
You're a legend here in Baltimore City. Where we at right now?
We live in the 17, Pennsylvania Avenue. The legendary Pennsylvania Avenue.
Man, the last time I saw you here, you were doing something just across the street here. What were you doing?
Oh yeah, I had some food left over from an event. We brung it out and fed a couple of people, man.
Why you do that?
Nice soul food.
Why you do that?
Man, the love that God has shown me in Christ, man, it overflows. That's how it overflows.
Yes, sir.
We got more than we can use.
Already was high within San Antonio, Winchester community, but the age group is getting younger. Children under the age of 18 being murdered in San Antonio has a high peak right now. So our goal is to catch the children.
You're going hard, man. You're going hard on that man today. So what do you think, Mr. Mayor? You got manufacturing right here, helping our young people despite all of the challenges in the city of Baltimore, right here on North Avenue.
No, it's really about the growth. Just knowing where, being there when they were down in Port Covington and seeing how far it's grown. Like you said earlier, like getting the Soul Bay, you know, where we got the Soul Bay at the beginning, but now being able to, when I'm at Canada Yards, get it, or anytime I'm down at Harbor Place to get it, and folks to not even know, but they gonna know now that like this is coming from young people in West Baltimore, right there in West Baltimore on North Avenue, where they think nothing great comes from, but they can see it in what the young people do.
It's the things that you do.
Here on the planet of Mississippi, with our very dear friend Floyd Mathis. A beautiful town, just leaving Algiers, which is an update 10 years since Katrina. The news.
It's a smile on your face. And as time goes by, I know I'm in a better place. I'm in a better place.
All right, y'all, this is what I came to New York for. Besides the Black Wall Street Awards, we're going in here and get some of this real good jerk chicken. Johnny Glover, out.
Your skin, just the touch of your hand makes me tremble within.
But we need to feed our loved ones. DOTS needs to rescind this package policy program so that our loved ones are able to eat every day in that filthy facility that
we have some stars in the building.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover, entered the winning for the long haul. Baby, we have a very special show for you today. First, I want to thank everyone for all of their birthday wishes. 59 years around the sun. To God be the glory. We had a wonderful event also at Coppin on Wednesday, 30 years of journalist. I celebrated 3 decades of work in print, radio, television, and the internet. Today, our guests include the one and only attorney extraordinaire, Robert Fulton DeShield. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Blessed by the best. Andy Pierre, political advisor. How are you, sir?
Well, how about yourself?
Fresh back from Philadelphia.
Good morning, Andy. How are you?
Karanja Gashusha. How are you, sir? All the way from Kenya.
Pretty good. Thanks for having me. How's it going?
And the incomparable Richard Deshae Elliott. How are you, Richard?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good to see you again, Andy. Pay Andy money to cover your campaign.
That's my man.
So, Richard, stop muting yourself. I mean, I'm not sure what you keep doing that for. Richard, you want to start this discussion off?
Well, what I wanted to talk on first is the Prince George's County Council, not just the at-large race and the vacant seat, but sort of the balance of power with that seat. Unfortunately, former council member Mel Franklin resigned about 2 weeks ago. for what state prosecutor said bribery, or not bribery, excuse me, embezzlement, perjury, and theft. There's now a special election to replace him that has been set for August the 6th. I repeat, if you are a registered voter in Prince George's County, Maryland, there is a primary election on August the 6th. So far, the only formally declared candidates, as in they've made it known to the public, are County Council Chair Jolene Ivy and Prince George's County Council, or Prince George's Clerk of Courts Mahasan El-Amin. There's several other prospective candidates, but so far those are the two that have made their intentions known.
And your thoughts on that?
No comment, because I'm a journalist, not a politician.
Oh, news to me.
When's the filing deadline?
The filing deadline is July the 5th. Anybody that is in the county would be eligible. Again, this is an at-large seat. Another important factor to keep in mind is that the other county council member at-large, Calvin Hawkins, he is term limited. So even if an individual were to be unsuccessful in this special election, there's going to be an open seat for the at-large thereafter, which will likely garner many entrants as well. So anybody running for this is also ramping up their countywide name recognition for the soon-to-be open at-large seat in the 2026 election.
Another question for you: who has more power, the at-large councilman or the district level councilman?
This way, all of them get one vote, but the at-larges, they have much better ability to go into a different part of the county and hold events, raise money, go to business openings, etc. Being a district council member, you might get, most of the attention and support in your particular district, but an at-large can go anywhere in the county. They can know that that all the contacts they're making are people that could use their constituent services. They know all the people they're talking to are potential voters for them, regardless of where they are in the county. And it's a much better platform for fundraising as well.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Good to know.
Some of the headlines yesterday include takeaways from CNN's presidential debate with Biden and Trump. Second one, a halting Biden tries to confront Trump at debate, but sparks Democratic, bear with me a second here, Democratic anxiety about his candidacy. There is talk also of a Michelle Obama nomination. Karanja Gashusha, any thoughts on last night's debate?
I always find it very interesting. Yes, of course, there was the halting moment for Biden. We can't pretend that Biden isn't 70. Is it 78? So of course, say that again.
81.
81. Oh, damn. That's right. He was 78 when he ran previously. So we can't pretend that that's not the reality. But of course, what you see on the right, on the Republican side, is that they don't care about the fact that their man is a 34 times convicted felon. They don't care about the fact that he swears and he talks about grabbing women by their private parts. They don't give a hoot about anything he says or does, because they're laser focused on the Supreme Court judges that they get. The reality of the U.S. presidency is that you could put, what's a good name for a dog? Rufus in the seat. And the systems, the checks and balances, for the most part, will work. The job of a president is to sign bills and rally his troops. So there's very little requirements on Biden, provided he is passing, ideologically, Democrats should need to recognize that they have their guy who ideologically is to the center, dead on center on where Democratic policies are. Now, that is not where my preference personally is, but the question is about Democrats well, the debate in general. And so Democrats have this ability to, to wring their hands and to shoot themselves in the foot. Republicans are laser focused on winning. They don't care about the fact that their man is all of these things. Democrats do this all the time, and they will probably shoot themselves in the foot, and they will probably cost themselves the presidency. I have no sympathy for Democrats because they do this all the time. I also have no sympathy for Democrats because Joe Biden has been quite awful when it comes to international policy. Anyway, so I really there's no love lost on my from my as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. Shield, you want to put this in perspective for us?
What last night illustrated is the serious deficiencies in the political structure of what we refer to as American brand of democracy. If this is the best that system can produce, on the one hand, a pathetic, proverbial, irreconcilable liar, and on the other hand, a doting old guy who clearly has lost the ability to focus and to lead anything. If this is the best we have to offer, it's a sad state of affairs. And what both parties are committed to is retaining their power. Neither cares one whit about what the people want. Neither cares one whit about what is in the best interest of the people. All they care about is retaining power by whatever means necessary. So the real question is, what is Trump's real attraction? The fact that he wants to win doesn't make him different from anybody else. But what is the attraction that he holds for the millions of people, presumably, who follow him? And why is it that the Democratic candidate can't identify a single issue that will correlate his base or the base of the Democratic Party? That's because Trump has stolen it. The MAGA-nites are yes, they're concerned about winning, but the issue that the common issue that the thread that runs throughout them is their desire to, quote, make America great again. Now, what does that really mean? That means to assert without contradiction, without apology, the rightful role, if you will, of white men in control of this country. That is the issue. And the reason the Democrats can't confront that issue is because they believe in it too. That's what makes it so hard for them to identify a corresponding issue on their side, because in reality, they believe in it too, in my opinion.
Danny Blount, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Donnie. I'm sorry for getting on a little late. Last night was a shock to some, and then not a shock to others. We've been seeing the decline in Biden for years. His policy is a little bit more attractive than Trump's policies. The way he carries himself, how he, try to present himself as being someone who cares about the people. On the contrary with Donald. But last night, the optics were at full stage, and it wasn't good. And the only thing that we really can do about this, because they're not going to change him as being the nominee for the Democrats. They're going to just move forward, shake it off, and hopefully try to press forward. That's all they can do, is just move forward and try to fix it. Now, how can you fix someone who is declining in their health, someone who has presented himself in a way that no one thought was going to happen last night? You just do. And, Biden is not the best candidate for me, as far as in the Democratic Party, but he is the one who has been pushed forward to represent our party. So we had to push forward. Everyone exposed themselves last night. Donald Trump exposed himself, or he confirmed himself last night. We know who he is. We know who Biden is. Both of them have shortcomings. But the fact of the matter, this is America. And this is how things have been run in America for decades. Being a separate entity, that's a great question. Having our own party, it's a great question. But is it a reality? It's not.
I made this suggestion some years back, just after the Obama presidency, for Michelle Obama. Anybody agree that the Democrats ought to consider Michelle Obama as the nominee?
I think they should consider it. I think it's time for it. The Democrats have an opportunity here. They have an opportunity to rise up and try to convince the American people that the American people are their number one priority versus keeping control and power within this thing called the so-called Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is not my party. The Republican Party is not my party. And I resist vehemently those who say because it isn't right today, it will never be right. Those are the same people who wanted to turn back when Harriet Tubman was in the forest. Those are the same people who said that we would never get voting rights. Those are the same people who said that we would never get. So I never say never. And if I spend my last breath fighting for what I believe in, then I'm going to die with a smile on my face. We've got to stop discouraging those who come after us from trying to change the things that we know how to change by telling them that it can't happen. It can happen by God's grace and by perseverance and by commitment. It can happen. The fact that it may not happen in my lifetime, who am I to say that because it can't happen in my lifetime that it can't happen or it shouldn't happen? Who made me so great that if it doesn't happen or can't be perceived to happen in my lifetime, that we shouldn't struggle to try to make it happen? Yes, they should consider Michelle Obama or anybody else that they could put forward who's competent to be the leader of this country, but they won't do it unless they believe that by doing so, they can retain power within this thing called the Democratic Party. And I have no idea what conclusion they will come to.
Andy Pierre, your thoughts?
So, watching this debate last night, I'm going to preface this by saying that Trump did not win the debate. Biden snatched defeat out of the jaws of victory. The stage was set for him. And I couldn't understand anything he was saying. Like, you could want to be, like, right now, there would be so many people defending Biden and saying all how great he was if anybody could understand what he was saying. So, it leads me to wonder, right? Because we know Trump's victory, what that means, right? It means Project 2025 is coming full force. Now, why would the Democratic Party, now there is talks about replacing Biden with somebody. Should it be Michelle Obama? I don't think so. Please leave that lady alone. Let her enjoy her life.
Her country needs her. Her country needs her.
There are other capable individuals who,
like who, Andy,
who can step up.
Like who?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Now, I mean, but the thing is, Michelle Obama is a great individual, but does she want that? Is she not jumping out there? We can't just draft her and then she doesn't want the job.
Come on, Richard Deshae Elliott.
Okay, I got a lot to respond to and think on. I agree with Andy that there has not been any inclination I've ever personally seen or heard from Michelle Obama into seeking the presidency. If she were to say, in fact, I think that she actually has the power, not her personally, but through her personal levels of support, and I think a good level of loyalty from the Obamas to the DN or to pledged delegates to the DNC. She's a person who, if that opportunity floated, might be possible to be picked in a weird convention. But this election, what I'll talk about is that not only are there now a lot of Democrats talking about having a convention where another candidate is chosen, whether by horse trading or by the common sense across party, Republicans are talking about the same thing. So not only was there a debate where it appears everybody is just generally unsatisfied and angrier from having watched it, but both parties' insiders are having mass attention to the fact that conventions are not as decided as people think they are. I think if it were to be such a convention, the ticket I'd like would probably be Gretchen Whitmer and Wes Moore. That's the ticket I probably will support for president in 2028. I think that Biden, while I think he has a lot of very, very, very good accomplishments, he is the most accomplished Democrat since Lyndon B. Johnson on quite a few things. He fought through COVID by spending government money, and we still have the lowest level of inflation in the Western world. I think that he has sadly thrown it all away to commit some of the stupidest foreign policy blunders in Israel after he had otherwise been rather smart on foreign policy. I think that him choosing to exit the ticket would be wise in some regards. But I think that the main thing I'm looking at the election from and why I didn't watch the debate is even if it is Biden, who's a stammering old man who doesn't know where he is, the people doing the government are his administration, and the people doing his administration have, for the most part on national priorities, done a damn good job, in my opinion. So that's why I didn't watch the debate. I knew who I was rocking with already.
Karanja, any thoughts? Your response.
Well, Richard there mentioned two people that I also was going to mention when you were asking who could be alternatives. Wes Moore. I don't think Michelle Obama should be running. The United States is not a monarchy. There are 50 Democratic senators. There are a number of governors, over 20, I believe, at least over 10.
Said that when George Bush Sr. and Jr. both ran for president.
We did with our ballots.
Yeah, and we shouldn't repeat it. We should stay away from John Adams did and John Quincy Adams as well as the Bushes. And well, let's see how that turned out. Bush Jr. ran because Daddy ran, and he was a disaster. And so Michelle Obama has made it clear that she does not want to be president. So she might not be a good president, being that she doesn't want it, right? So let's start there. Even for the good of the country, she might not be a good president because she's not a politician. You do need to have a certain level of political savvy, not just intelligence. We are all political analysts here. And even for those of us that are political analysts, it doesn't mean that we would make good politicians. There's a certain acumen that is required to being a politician, to do the horse trading, and also to have the lack of shame that is required to be a politician, quite frankly, right? So there are many reasons why not Michelle Obama, in addition to the fact that this isn't a monarchy, and we should be looking outside of the same privileged families already. And her husband was also, I mean, the Obama presidency, as far as I'm concerned, was more of the same when it comes to foreign policy as well. So, it wasn't the most exciting for me. He was far too center anyway. And Michelle Obama would be more of the same. So there's multiple reasons why not Michelle Obama. Wes Moore has proven himself. He is to the left of the Democratic Party. He's a great leader. I will take Mayor Brandon Scott over Michelle Obama, quite frankly. Of course, he doesn't have the national profile, but just because he doesn't have it today doesn't mean that he couldn't have it, right? And so let's think outside of the box. Let's be more imaginative. No, we don't need to recycle the same old names. Hillary Clinton, the running was a disaster. And as far as Democrats wringing their hands, I mean, they're stuck with the old dude. So Democrats better get in line and focus on the Supreme Court, focus on keeping out fascism, focus on keeping out Project 2025. And that's who they got. But I also agree, I believe it was Richard who said that, or it might have been Doni, about the fact that just because we don't have a viable alternative party, political party today, does not mean that should not be pursued. Look at the disaster that the United States is facing right now because of this belief that as long as I've been in the United States, I've always heard that, it's going to be either one of the two parties. Ross Perot ran as an independent and garnered it was close to 30%, if I remember correctly, right? So it can be done. It should be done. It should be attempted. In the United Kingdom, they're in the middle of their campaign now, and third-party candidates are actually making waves. Macron in France actually built his party the year that he was elected. So it can be done, but it does require those of us in the media to be responsible and not continue to perpetuate these ideas that it cannot be done. We should be perpetuating the idea of the possibility of an alternative. We need an alternative. It's ridiculous that these two are our alternatives.
The third party is not going to happen until the third party builds an actual infrastructure, an actual organization. All of this hearts and minds stuff that they're running around with ain't going to get them there.
Well, wait a second. The largest voting bloc that exists today is independents. Now, we don't call...
but they're not organized.
Wait a second. We don't know that technically organized because the media controls what we think about that group. Then that's the same thing that happened. It's the same thing. And Karaji, Hillary Clinton wasn't a disaster. What was a disaster was you had somebody running who got 3 million more votes than the other person and lost anyway. That's the disaster. That's the disaster of American politics. That's the disaster of the Electoral College. That's the disaster of closed primaries. That's the disaster when we allow two political parties to take over control politically of the state and local jurisdictions. That's the disaster. The fact is that there is a level of organization within the so-called independents, but we're not going to hear about it. Listen to CNN. We're not going to hear about it. Listen to ABC or NBC. The only place you're going to hear about it is
seeing it on the ballot. We're not seeing it on the ballot either.
Well, that's now you do have to but getting on the ballot is not particularly difficult.
No. I mean, like they're not shifting anybody. They're not changing any conversation. If the independents came out today, they could shut down Biden or they could shut down Trump, but they won't do that.
But they need a candidate. That's the problem. Every organization needs a head if it's going to move anywhere. And there's nobody, and the problem is they don't have a candidate. And one of the reasons why they don't have a candidate is because we keep saying that nobody but a Democrat or a Republican can win.
This is America. Anything could happen. But let's talk. All I'm saying is if an independent wants to win, if they want to pull a Ross Perot, they need to do what Ross Perot did and build a machine.
You had
not a machine. You're not going nowhere.
That's right. You had the Green Party. You had independents. I mean, you just have to have a machine behind you, and you do have to have that leader. It's just not happening right now. We've been talking about having a different party for decades, and it's something that people do like to hear. People do want, but it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened for a reason because they don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the face. And clearly they don't have enough support, and the other parties itself also is downplaying them too. So that right there itself is something hopefully to look forward to in the future. But as it stands right now, we have to get the best candidates we can in our Democratic Party.
Attorney this Project 2025, known as the Presidential Transition Project, is a collection of conservative policy proposals. It's far right. Some people call it fascist. Should we be concerned about that, Attorney DeShield?
Absolutely. Well, what Black people ought to be concerned about is the denial of our existence. I mean, there's a movement to erase our presence as Black people in this country. You could see it in what happened in Harford County yesterday or the day before, when they refused to approve the curriculum for 3 subject areas, one in advanced placement, one for 6th grade, 6th to 7th grade, and another one, because they taught the history of, essentially, they purported to teach the history the real history of African Americans in this country. So the school board and the county, in spite of the fact that they may lose over 10% of the state funding, voted against adopting the curriculum that had just been approved by the State Board of Education. We got to look at what's going on, not in Washington. We got to look at what's going on in our neighborhoods. I'm telling you, there is a war that's going on, and it's a war against Black people. And if we don't recognize
this is the war manifesto.
Yes, that is exactly right. That is exactly right.
A question.
And the fight is not in DC. The fight is in our neighborhoods. The fight is at the local level. We can walk around singing "Kumbaya" like everything's great enough, and the house is on fire. It's burning down around. And if we don't assert our rightful position as leaders, we are the leaders. Now we know what the obstacles are, but we got to stop talking about the obstacles and articulating the obstacles as though that is the result and the solution. It's not. We got to stop talking about what we can't do and do what we can. That's our problem.
It all starts and ends at the grassroots level.
That's right. That's exactly.
And I tell you, it hurts my heart. I'm with the Baltimore County Democratic State Central Committee, and we are the grassroots organization for the whole Democratic Party within the different states. And to see what's happening at the local level, you will be amazed, especially in districts that's of color, and how they're allowing other folks to come in and take over and not being challenged and not being held accountable for these actions that are allowing this to happen. But it is the grassroots level that we really need to focus on, because that's what hits us closest home.
That's right.
We gotta pay attention to everybody, man. Because this document, the Project 2025, it wasn't just the Heritage Foundation that put these 900 pages together. There was 400 other think tanks together that worked to put this thing together. And I know as I went through it, I pulled out about 7 points. Now, this thing is definitely this is war. Like, we know when if Trump wins that this is coming into play. This is exactly what they're pushing. They're going to be, for day one, they're coming out with all of this, right? But
wait, Andy, can I say one
part
point?
of me feels like Biden is like, the fact that Biden is the freaking nominee and we don't have a fighter, we don't have a scrapper. That makes me feel like, all right, you guys want this. Y'all want this Project 2025 to play out. Because, I mean, this whole thing, they're attacking the project labor agreements. They're going after the Davis-Bacon Act. They're coming after freaking worker class. Like, they're making it so that it will be next to impossible for somebody being discriminated against in a workplace to prove that they've been discriminated against. They're making it even harder to prove something that's already hard to prove. With this mandate, I spent too much time with this. It's kind of a trigger for me right now. But sorry, Richard, what were you saying?
Only thing I wanted to add on to what you just said, and I agree with fully, is that even if Trump does not win, there is a Republican majority in either chamber of Congress, either the House or the Senate. They are still going to pursue this agenda every way they can. This is the Republican Party laying bare what their federal goals are, point blank, period. Being an open party of not just fascism, but of just blatant corporatism, of corporations matter and people don't, point blank, period. That is as fundamentally clear as possible. And that's why for the rest of the election, I'm not saying anything negative about Joe Biden. If the Project 2025 agenda, or excuse me, about whoever the Democratic nominee is, because now people actually would like it to be flipped from Joe. The Project 2025 agenda, especially as a Black Marylander, would destroy our state economy. It would destroy Black wealth on a level we've never before seen, from the number of federal employees that they would hit them with the Woodrow Wilson. We don't need Black workers anymore. We need to purge the federal government. It has happened before. And the impact that has across our entire area, even separate from everything else horrible, would completely destroy this region as, quote, a hub of Black wealth. The 2025 agenda, which I'd encourage anybody listening to hear about, is, I would say, the greatest threat for American freedoms as a whole. poll in a very long time.
And we left them a safe space to plan this thing out. The fact that there was not enough black people in the Republican Party to kill this bullshit before it even made it out of the primaries pisses me off. Because this was never supposed to make it out the primaries. The fact that we don't have a 30% of the voting bloc within the Republican Party pisses me off. Because at the end of the day, we would have stopped this shit.
Are you willing to volunteer to be on the Republican Party?
At the end of the day, I work with Republicans. I work with black Republicans specifically.
Well, let me say this: that asking somebody black to become a member of the Republican Party, along with the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, the KKK, and the rest of the bunch, is like asking the Jews to join the Holocaust Committee. Come on, we got. Let me finish. We got to have some level of respect for ourselves. We got to have some. We got to draw the line somewhere.
Absolutely.
I reject the notion that in order to get ahead, I got to sit beside David Duke. I got to sit beside Steve Miller or Steve Bannon or any of those. But you're right. Whoever said that this movement is not about Donald Trump is absolutely correct. Neither is the 2025 Project new. It's 900 pages, but there's not a single word that's new in there. They've never changed.
It's the same thing.
That's been the agenda all along.
Let's go back to that. Let's go back to this. A political party is just a series of factions. Within the Democratic Party, we are just one small faction. We're sitting beside the progressive David Duke. We're sitting beside.
Look, here's where I don't care who is in what. There's not enough good in any party that houses David Duke and the Oath Keepers for me to become associated with it. I can't hold my nose long enough.
A safe space for them, right? Because right now the Republican Party is a safe space.
I'll suffocate. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And our problem is we've been too accommodating in the past. That's why the civil rights movement went nowhere. What other group of people in the world would join a movement that at the end of the day they were supposed to be invisible? What other group of people would join a movement at the end of the day that go somewhere and we never even knew where it was supposed to stop? What other group of people would allow somebody else who've been promoting slavery throughout the years to dictate what a remedy should be for the theft and misappropriation of our assets and that have occurred for the last 400 years? Who would allow themselves to be led by such a movement, by such a group? Besides
let me just jump in, Mr. Bob. I'm 59 years old, and for 40 years I've voted for Democrats in a 9-1 Democratic city. When I look at East Baltimore, when I look at West Baltimore, can I say that I am proud to be a Democrat when I look at the fact that we have schools that don't have air, that don't have heat, even though we had a Maryland State Lottery that's brought in over $16 billion. The fact that you have to damn near beg for, on behalf of Black businesses, quote unquote, minority business enterprises, just to get our fair share of the pie in a 63% Black city. And the fact that mass incarceration is heralded here in the city of Baltimore in the state of Maryland, such that Black men alone make up 38.8% of America's prisons. What in the hell is my benefit of being a Democrat?
Well, that's why I say we don't own the Democratic Party and we don't own the Republican Party. I don't support either one of them. But our problem is we don't pick our own leaders. We don't pick our own leaders. And when we put somebody in that looks like us, we tell them it's okay if they act like the white people because that's necessary for them to get reelected.
Does that include Westmore?
It includes Westmore. It includes Barack Obama. It includes Kamala Harris. It includes because they're part of the same group with Tim Scott and Brian Nelson.
Right now, the way it looks like,
they're all cut.
They are following. Yeah, they are following. The rules of the power folks. That's what they're following. They're not doing any of this of their own. They're following what they are being told to do.
Yeah, but the point you're absolutely right. But the problem is they are ignoring the power that we have. In 2012, if in 2012, if every black person had voted for Barack Obama, and it didn't happen, but if every black person had voted for Barack Obama in 2012, he would have won without a single white vote. Without a single white vote, because more black people voted than white people. Now, why can't we build upon that? Why can't we transfer that down to the local level and start training and nurturing and building our own cadre, our own group of leaders, instead of adopting somebody that's picked by other folks?
And to Robert's point, in a city like Baltimore, if the Democratic Party is not working, why does a city like Baltimore, where you literally do not need the Democratic Party, why is there not an alternative party to run and represent the interests of black people that are very unique from the interests of the Democratic Party, let's face it, and of course have nothing to do with the interests of the Republican Party? Why is there not, even at the local level, why are we still stuck with this notion that we can only either have Democrats or Republicans? Brandon Scott, as far as I can tell, frankly, is not straight Democrat in the democratic sense of their ideology, of the center-right ideology. Why can Brandon Scott not be running in a party of his own that is representative to the ideals of black people? And if not Brandon Scott, why not the next politician and the future mayor? Why is there not a party that is genuinely representative of the interests of the owners and the inhabitants of a city like Baltimore City, a city like New York City? Why do we need to be running Democratic candidates to represent black people when that's not what they do? They represent the interests of the liberal white elites, whether they're Democrats or Republicans.
I'm going to offer you a quick response, and I've got to go. I told Doni this earlier, but I don't know if either of you guys golf, but I'm a very high handicap golfer. And the reason why, Karanji, that isn't happening, because sometimes we're standing on in the middle of the fairway, and between us and the green is a river, and we can either lay up or go cross. And we say to one another, "No guts, no glory." The reason it doesn't happen because we got no damn guts. That's the reason why it happened. That's the reason. In a nutshell, we got no balls. We are testosterically diminished. Okay, we believe that the only way we can win is doing what they say. So we do what they say. See you later. I gotta run.
Well, I challenge the notion that black people don't have balls, because look at what the Black Lives Matter movement has done more recently, but also over the years. The fighting back that black people have done all the way going back to the time of Harriet Tubman. So that is not. I don't feel that is a sufficient answer. I do think that there's a lack of imagination in the political class. And if the political class are not going to do it, I do think that black people at the grassroots have to be more imaginative than the political class. Is it easy? I'm not suggesting that it is to break through the political machinery. But it has to be done, and it can be done, and it should be done starting with the grassroots. It should be at the very least, on the at the level of media, we should be encouraging it at the very least.
The grassroots.
We'd like to welcome to the discussion Byron Deese. Byron, welcome to the show. Your thoughts?
Good morning, brothers. And I want to say I caught a good bit of what you've been sharing, and I do want to add, and I kind of share in Andy Pierre's frustration, if you will, in like what's his name? Jesse Jackson calls rocks just laying around. You know, essentially, when you look at, there are black people who are in the Republican Party. Unfortunately, they're not outnumbered, pushing a single black agenda in the Republican Party. And
they're outnumbered. They don't got no voice.
Understood.
They don't got the numbers.
And the truth is, we have to be in a position where our caucus in a congressional caucus has a singular national Black agenda that we can push in both parties. You know, we can push it on the GOP side. We can push it through the Democratic side, but we can't be a party. We can't be a caucus that's 100% following the line of what the DNC has to say. We have to have and to your point, Karanja, I hope I didn't mispronounce your name, but to your point, what Brandon Scott and other Black elected officials who are quote unquote unapologetic, they're beginning to discuss policies that aren't on the platform of the DNC. And these are Black focused, unapologetic policies. That is, and definitely can be, the beginning of a national Black platform that addresses Black economics, Black education, Black health, Black crime, whatever the case may be, and begin to, especially cities like Baltimore, Chicago, and Detroit, they can begin to outline what a national Black agenda legislative policy should look like. So we definitely have the bones to create the type of national Black infrastructure for the caucus. But again, it will only go so far if everybody's still pushing a Democratic agenda. We have to be able to infiltrate what's happening on the Republican side too, to be able to effectively move the needle nationwide for Black folks.
Let me say one thing real quick.
Distribute our troops. And our troops are not effectively distributed right now. Everybody's on one side, and we're trying to fight racism while leaving a safe space for racists to grow and build and do what they need to do and plan and keep coming back at us. If they don't have a safe space, we need to relegate the racists to the freaking Green Party or send them back to the freaking some other party that doesn't exist anymore, but they cannot have the Republican Party anymore.
Well, the thing is, they've owned the Republican Party. They've owned that party since, God knows when, right? And even when the parties flipped names, right? They've been in existence. And quite frankly, we have those. We have the Dixiecrats in the Democratic Party too, right? But the one thing that I wanted to throw in real quick about the Republican Party and Black people is that even when we do have Black Republicans, they're not espousing the hopes and dreams of Black people. They're fighting to be who is more Trumpian, who is more MAGA, right? The ones that are in there right now. And so we're not seeing, there's no evidence that when Black people are in there so far, that they're changing or moving the needle or changing the conversation. I hear your frustration. I share
they don't have the numbers.
And I share your hope that would happen. It's not been evidenced by what has happened.
I want to give you a little bit of evidence. And let's talk a little bit of evidence more so on the policy side. And I always say this to folks, when we're dealing with a Black Republican, are we dealing with Clarence Thomas, who's on the far, far, far right, who has no intentions at all of pushing an agenda for Black folks? Or are we dealing with Tim Scott? And let me say this before folks jump out. Tim Scott is also the same brother who wrote the Opportunity Zone legislation with Cory Booker, who's willing to, at least from his point of view, design policy that could be intentionally to support Black folks. So my question is, even though we know they're not going to be liberal Democrats, Black Democrats, we know that. So the question then becomes, who, from their perspective, from their ideology, who still wants to push an agenda for Black people from their perspective? And if they do have that type of intentionality, we can begin to write policy together. You can't do nothing with Clarence Thomas, but you can begin to work and build legislation with folks like Tim Scott. Even though he's cooning and whatever he does, there's legislation that can be written and moved in each party with folks like that.
Richard Elliott, you've been a little quiet. Hold up, Karanja. Richard, you've been quiet for a minute. Come on out of your cloud. Talk to me.
The only note that I have, I guess two notes, are why do people run in parties for seats? It's less votes to win a Democratic primary than to beat a Democrat and a Republican with an independent or a green. It's less votes. So you generally
access.
yeah, ballot access. It's way cheaper. Like people don't like throwing, $1 million at like a $10,000 problem. And then secondarily, earlier it was said that independents are the biggest party. I don't think that categorizes independents in any kind of way that makes political sense. Like independents are, in many cases, are young people like who just don't like to be affiliated with a party. Or in many cases, older people who get upset over like a bill and change their mind. Like it's not united around anything. It's a solar system with no sun. Everything is just there, regardless of the reason. To assume that the independents are a party where I think that many times when we talk about, or when I'm not gonna say when analysts talk about the mythical independent, they theorize like the Mike Bloomberg or Larry Hogan candidate that is like a moderate and nice and a good manager of capital. That's what's made to seem as the independent candidate when they're singularly unpopular outside of partisan labels. But that also doesn't include like Bernie Sanders is incredibly popular among the politically independent. And it's more about how a person became disengaged from politics rather than what policies or candidates or anything else unites them. So that's not to dispel the fact that independents are a huge sector of the political universe in Maryland and Baltimore and America generally. But to say that like that's a coalesced political group it's just not correct. I'm sorry.
I want to shift gears to this U.S. Senate race. Andy, any thoughts on who has the advantage?
Man, right now, when it comes to this U.S. Senate race, what I really want to know is where does Larry Hogan stand on these different this Project 2025? That's what I want to know. Like, sir, I mean, you took off with women. You took the women's issue off the table by saying he would rock with the Democrats on that. But there's 900 pages of very questionable things that the conservatives want to do. Mr. Moderate, where do you stand? That's what I would like to know. But this whole 10 points for Also Brooks thing, I don't know. They only polled like 600 people. So how is that accurate? But that's just me.
Danny, your thoughts on this U.S. Senate race?
I tell you, my goodness, it's Larry Hogan is someone, as far as I'm concerned, can't be trusted. He just can't be trusted. I mean, he got a phone call to get in the race. He's someone who actually said that he wasn't going to run and all this kind of stuff. But when the phone rings, he answered. And here we are. Right now, with the Also Brooks campaign, I think it's a close race, to be honest with you. It is a close race. As Andy said, we have to ask those hard questions publicly on Larry Hogan and to get him to let us know exactly how he feels about this Project 2025 and hold him to it. But that's where we are right now. We have to peel the onion back and get them to cross them up or whatever to get them to say the things that we need to hear about how they feel moving forward.
Byron, my big issue is Black business. Who do you think would be more of an advocate for Black business, Angela Also Brooks or Larry Hogan?
I'm going to say Angela Also Brooks, and more so the reason is because Larry Hogan, the Larry Hogan that we know as governor, do not expect him to be the same person as senator. I know we love to look at track record, but he is going into a world that is unlike. He's not going to be in Maryland anymore, and that the level of he's doing everything he can now to associate with the folks who when he was governor, he came out and didn't vote for Trump twice.
I got you, Byron. Byron. But can you name anything that Angela Also Brooks has ever done for Black business?
Well, I mean, she didn't shut him down. Prince George's County.
No, not what she didn't do. Not what she didn't do. She was county executive. Did she push Black business?
I will say this. Being a legislator is different from being in the executive office. And when you are a freshman senator, they follow in the line. What we have to do is give
Byron, I don't know if you went to law school, but you're navigating this very, very. Does she have a track record of supporting?
She does. I mean, I would say the Prince George. They are black. I got personal clients who are winning, black business owners who are winning in Prince George's County. She didn't shut them down from doing business. So let me say it that way.
You're spewing rhetoric.
That's
I need to know what she has done for black business.
The truth is, my clients who are doing, some of them in Prince George's County are doing more than 20 million annual revenue, which is a growing small business. She didn't put policies in front of them that stopped them from doing business. So let me say it that way.
What she didn't do, what did she do? Let me give it to you, Bobby. I don't know if you've ever interviewed or been in the presence of a Marion Barry, but he has a solid reputation, even in death,
That's right,
as being a powerful advocate for black businesses who made new black millionaires. We're not talking about blacks who are already doing well. We're talking about new black millionaires in what is considered the wealthiest black jurisdiction in the country.
Yeah.
So let's go down here to Richard. Richard, you're in Prince George.
Well, let me add this real quick before we jump to Richard. Let me add this real quick because she had folks like Wayne Curry and folks like that before.
No, you can't drop Wayne Curry. You cannot drop Wayne Curry's name in this conversation. Wayne Curry had a solid reputation for helping black businesses.
That's exactly right. And she did not end his policies. That's my point. She didn't end. She could have come in there and say, scrap this, scrap that. She didn't do it.
Richard lives in Prince George's County. Richard, does Angela also Brooks have a track record for supporting black business?
All right. So if you're asking, yes, there's a record of supporting some black businesses. There are also admittedly hurdles and other black businesses coming in. I like the way that Byron puts it, though. Has Angela taken deliberate efforts to undermine black businesses?
You asked me why I want to be a Democrat.
No. Has she undertaken deliberate efforts to undermine black businesses? No. Has Larry Hogan, in the capacity as governor, you can give out a shit ton of money for free. You have a huge pot of money you give out for free, and he did give out some of that money. I think that if Angela was in his shoes, she would have given out more money to black businesses. Now, I think that on the question of who is going to support bills and who's going to support Supreme Court justices and who's going to support federal budgets that are friendlier for the conditions for black businesses in Maryland to thrive, it's easy. That answers Angela also Brooks. I'm with her all the way. I have no questions or concerns with her relative to Larry Hogan, particularly since there might be 2 or 3 Supreme Court justices that leave in the next 4 years. 2 or 3 that leave in the next 4 years, and we're already outnumbered basically 8-1.
We can't play with that vote.
All right, Andy, I need you to be the voice of reason. Which way? Yay, nay?
Whether or not also Brooks is going to be good for black businesses, I think it's hard. Well, how do I put this?
I'll say also, something that manages a little nicer, Donnie. Angela is a Maryland Democrat. The Maryland Democratic Party is undoubtedly, verifiably funded by many, many big white corporations. Your Pepco, your BGE, your et cetera companies. And
but isn't the truth of the matter, Richard, that she also has a track record of being a prosecutor, just like Kamala Harris, and that's why nobody is mentioning Kamala Harris for president, because they have a track record of locking up black people?
I think that there's other approval rating related reasons of not supporting Kamala. If Kamala were to say at the convention that she wanted to be the candidate and she came through with the pledged convention votes, I'd be with her all the way. But I think there's other factors of why people aren't supporting Kamala, especially just no votes or very few public stands on things over the past few years relative to how much people dislike the administration. Angela was a prosecutor, and Larry Hogan at the same time is saying that she was a bad prosecutor, that the county has problems now. and she shouldn't be a prosecutor. At least one of those things is too many things to say at once. And on the same note, when Hogan was governor, crime went up across the whole state. The whole state, not Baltimore, the whole state. Violent crime went up across the whole state. Since Hogan is gone and Trump is gone and Brandon Scott is in, Baltimore is having the safest period, on murder at least, since integration. And
I don't buy none of their. I don't buy any of their statistics on crime. I live in Baltimore City. I see too much violence. Karanja, come on with it. You've been quiet.
I'm going to tell you that we've seen Republicans. They're very practical about their party, and they have party allegiance first and foremost above anything else. If Hogan is elected to the Senate, he will be a straight down the line Republican. He will vote MAGA all the way, and that is what Republicans do. And I do not believe at all at any time, and not just my belief, but statistics also show us that when Republicans are in power, the economy is worse for everyone, not just for Black people. And Democrats generally are a little bit better, because when you put money in the hands of the grassroots, that money does spread throughout the economy, and that is Democratic policy. And that is the one good thing I'll say about Democrats today. So Andy, you can't all the way strangle me, when talking about your beloved party. But
first of all, I'm a card-carrying Democrat. I vote Democrat, sir.
I think you just made news, Donnie. I think you just made news.
No, I'm saying that's the one thing. The one good thing I'll say about Democrats today, because I've been bashing Democrats all show long. They do put money in the hands of the grassroots, and that's where the money belongs, because that's who drives the economy. Angela Brooks, all the way.
All the way.
I want to say this real quick about also Larry Hogan here. Project 2025, he's voting for that. I guarantee it. There's no getting around. We're talking about anti-woke. That's what this is all about. He will vote for Project 20 or support it, help implement it. So we can't fluff around with this, man. This is
I need to hear him say it.
This is the big boys. When you talk about Hogan going to the Senate, that's a whole nother level. And you're talking about the real boys
and this is not about Hogan versus Brooks. This is about the majority, the Senate majority going red or blue. We cannot afford.
The same could be said about Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania. Like, where does he stand on this?
Exactly. Listen.
Any final thoughts?
And the thing is,
before we close out today, any final thoughts?
We got to stop infighting amongst Black people and start getting asking these hard questions to these folks. All of this, like side talking. They have their plan of attack. They put it out there publicly. It's easy to find. They hit it amongst a bunch of words, but they want to come after diversity in the workplace. They want to stop critical race theory trainings, not the stuff in the schools. We're talking about the workplace critical race theory. They want to end that. They want to end the equal employment, the report that tells you how many Black people are on which jobs, so that you can say, oh yeah, this is what's going on here in these industries. They want to overhaul worker classifications, right? So that way, it's easier to hide patterns of racism. They want to flip how they use the Title VII in order to they're going to use it to benefit the white man, and it makes it's a very plausible use of the law. Talking about we're going to enforce it more strictly. Okay, I like the way they flip that. The letter of the law is a double-edged blade. You could use it to do good, and you could use it to do harm. So whatever. They want to end project labor agreements and their whole living wage stuff and all how the unions be eating good. They're trying to dead that. So no, just because at the end of the day, if you go and you're a skilled laborer and whatnot, and you get a union job, you might make $200,000 a year. They don't want that. They want the plumbers to be living in poverty. They want to repeal the Davis-Bacon Act so that less minorities can get into these construction contracts. Like,
they done.
They got this thing. They have a plan. They are trying to get us.
Project 2025 bad. Trump bad. Hogan likely vote for Project 2025 bad.
Yeah.
Vote. People should read about this plan. And if anybody thinks that Hogan's popularity and kindness and dog pictures as governor are going to help you when they are gutting environmental regulations, economic regulations, education funding, and otherwise making lives worse, you are making a mistake as a Marylander. Be a smart Marylander. Pull for Angela.
No doubt.
That'll be the final word, gentlemen.
I got one thing to say, Donnie, if you don't mind. I just want to congratulate Donnie on his 30 years in journalism.
Congrats, Donnie.
RG, my friend. God is good. Continue to do the good work, Donnie, unapologetically.
Good deal. Thank you for all of your support. Andy Pierre, Karanja, Gashusha, Richard Elliott, Danny Blount, Byron T. Deese. Good morning, world.
Smart Marylander, buy Donnie's book.
That's right.
Donnie's book.
It's coming soon. Janopreneur.
And wait.
Edited it.
Yes, Richard Elliott is the editor.
All right.
Have a good day.
Fantastic.
Have a good day, all.
Thank you.